Black Alert. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Spore drive is online.
Welcome to the Black Alert podcast, your melanated reference for all things Star Trek across all four quadrants. We know that the last few days have been a reminder that we didn't, as Ms. Dionne Warwick suggested, leave all foolishness behind in 2020, but we hope that today's show can be a bright spot in this period of what my mother would call people acting like they don't have any home training. Today, the bridge crew, Ray, Travis, Grace, Shaniqua, and I, are honored to welcome Mr. Wilson Cruz, who plays Dr. Hugh Culber on Star Trek Discovery, to our show. Hi, Wilson.
Hi.
Wilson, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate you, your work, and your advocacy. We're excited to spend this time with you.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me, really.
So, Ray, would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. Hi, Wilson. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just have a few questions for you. Actually, I have one. As a proud Afro-Puerto Rican woman from New York, from the Bronx.
Hey.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I
wanted to definitely, this show definitely brings out culture and diversity. So I really wanted to ask you, what elements from your Afro-Puerto Rican ancestry would you love to see in the 32nd century?
Well, what I love, so first of all, I have to say, I'm very happy to be here with all of you. After the week that we have all endured, I am very happy to be with some family today. So I will say this, what I'm really happy about is that the fact that we already know, given the last few seasons through Culber's story, that Puerto Rico is still with us, alive and well and thriving, and an independent nation. Hello. So I love the fact that we have established that. I love that we've already spoken about it, in passing, yes, but there were some really important elements of who Hugh Culber is that were revealed when we talked about his accident in Cabo Rojo, I believe it was. And so, and we talked about, his food and asapao and all of that. But I would really love for us to at least mention in some way how in the future Puerto Rico was allowed to create a government of self-reliance that was governed by and for the people. To me, that's an important thing historically for us to understand and know that this is an island that in the modern world has never been allowed to govern itself. And that has been taken advantage of and dismissed for centuries, when in fact, it is probably one of the most beautiful places on our planet, and has a long history, a long indigenous history that should be celebrated and remembered, and that we were used and abused by Europeans in a slave trade that dehumanized half of the planet. I would be very happy if in some way that it manifested itself in the story. But and by the way, I don't necessarily think that's impossible. I actually think that's a thing that these amazing creators we have would be open to doing. I have a wish list. I have presented it.
PowerPoint slides.
I'm not an executive producer, so I don't get to say that that it'll happen. But there are some things that I want to see, and some of them are people actually. So we'll see.
Thank you.
That goes directly to your question. I think we have room for another Puerto Rican on the.
Oh, sure.
In the Federation.
Look, this trip is very big.
I have
the galaxy.
I have a specific one in mind when I speak to you, but I can't say.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you this: if you've ever gone and read anything about, you can probably go ahead and guess who it is. But I'm not going to do it. So go.
So that's some homework for people out there listening, But that's the beauty of what you said though. Like if there is a show where we can portray some of our wish lists for the world, Star Trek is it. The show has become an example of how we can look to the future and look forward for the world that we want. So I'll cross my fingers for you that you get everything on your list.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important about Star Trek is how we center what our priorities should be as a species, as a people, as a world community, right? I think part of that for me is acknowledging the history and the resilience that allowed humanity to reach the year 3188. And that means acknowledging and celebrating the most marginalized amongst us who survived, because Lord knows they tried really hard to make sure that didn't happen.
Amen.
Which is why I think Star Trek Discovery specifically is so important, because when you don't even have to turn the sound on. You can have it on in the background and look at the TV, and we're letting you know that we have always been here and we will always be here.
Oh, yep. I feel that so much.
Let's turn off my camera and praise dance over here for a second.
My question is a lot lighter than the previous question, a little more fun. It's also a compound question, so you may need to take a little longer to answer, but it is, did you get to choose the race you appeared as or species you appeared as during the episodes to call? If so, why did you choose Bajoran? If not, what would you have chosen? And further, did you get to pick your earring?
Hell of a compound question.
That was a big question, girl.
I have answers for all of those. First, did I get to choose my species? No. 2, what species would I have chosen if I had been able to? Bajoran. 3, why? Because the Bajorans represent the most marginalized amongst us. And it speaks directly to what I was speaking to a moment ago, which is it's important for us to know that the Bajorans
We're there. Front and center.
are still there and are now part of the Federation, right? So they were before, but you know what I'm saying. That they survived it. That's so I was thrilled. I'm glad I didn't have to ask for that. They figured it out. Also, I look good in the ridge. I'm just saying.
I concur.
And it was
We agree. We all agree.
And the third reason is it was less time in the makeup trailer. I think she still had it. There was, what was the last part of it?
The earring. Did you get to choose your earring?
I wish. It was, although no, you know what? I was a part of the decision because I went to my fitting and they presented a few different. Gersha, who's our amazing costume designer, she went on like a search for, and they were handcrafted, by the way. They're very rare by this jeweler, and so she showed me a series of them, and one of them wasn't enough. Like I was like, if we do it, let's do it. And there was another one that I was just like, well, I mean, I want them to still see my face, honey. So it was really good. It was hard to get on, but anyway. And I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
During the episode, I'm like, oh, this earring, honey, because you turn your head and it jingles, and I'm like, yes, earring.
Catches the light and everything. Like,
I liked how it felt. Yes.
Like I thought, like you as a Bajoran, Hugh Culber as a Bajoran looked very good. You're right. You do look good in the ridge, and also it gave you the opportunity. This is something that we discussed earlier, and we'll probably discuss going forward for the finale episode, all the outfits that were put on the characters by the Hollow, all those outfits look good.
Right?
That suit, everybody's clothes. Well, I mean, I know Doug may have got a little bit of the short end of the stick because they gave him like just a zip up and some pants, but everybody else looks so good.
The thing was, what was funny to me about that is, I wonder if I could, I mean, I can say this, whatever. They did the mock-ups of the costume. They showed us what we were doing and everything, and the whole point was like, what do these people, what are these species wearing at this point, right, in the future? And I saw Doug's, and I was like, we're still doing zippies and hoodies and things.
Like,
No,
apparently have not evolved fashion.
A tuxedo, something, I don't know. Anyway, I just thought, but what was so great about that was we got to see Doug, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was so, I can't begin to tell you how moving it was for me, especially because I got to work so much with him in that way. It was really moving because I know what he goes through. We all do. We all know what he has to endure on a daily basis for hours at a time under extreme pressure, and then have to convey and communicate through that prosthetic in the way that he does, which calls for him to use his entire body. And to have that freedom for him, I could just feel how happy he was about it. He was so free, and I got to witness it, and I was that's what was the best. I don't care what he had on. I was like, live, boo, live your entire life.
Like, yes, see you.
Well, my question is, again, pretty lighthearted. When you guys get the script, is that when you find out there's a mirror episode that week? And when there is a mirror episode, how's the mood on set? How's the energy?
Well, it's the first time I've been allowed to be in the mirror because I'm going to put that out in the world. Culber died before they went to the mirror last time. So, but there was a mock-up of my costume, so I was very bummed that I didn't get to wear it at the time. I was real mad. I was real mad. I mean, I was mad already because hello, I'm dead. But
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
gonna show me the costume and not let me wear it. Come on.
You're going to kill me, but you're going to show me what I would have worn if I lived.
That's dirty. That's dirty.
Mean. So anyway, so we usually hear that we're going to the mirror universe. This year we had a little more time, and Gersha got to perfect those uniforms, those mirror uniforms. She really she did exactly what she wanted to do with them. That's what it
She
was.
so did.
So
And we saw you in the medical red, and it was like, ooh.
Ooh.
I have to tell.
Yeah, that's Culber. He's in red. Yeah, it was great. Knocked our socks off, and then the eye makeup.
I'll get to that in a second.
Everybody in the mirror universe has great eye makeup. Is that just a standard for the mirror universe? Everybody eye makeup?
No, it was actually, I have to tell you, and they will tell you this. I saw Sonequa in the makeup trailer, and I was like, her eyeliner looks cute. And so my makeup artist was working on me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wear some eyeliner. And she was like, wait a minute, I kind of love that. Let's do it. And so I was like, no, I can do it. I got it. My people know how to do this. And so anyway, so I got it. So then I got on set, and then I started to see, oh, I see these queens.
Yes.
Look at
Yes.
Culber again, the trendsetter. But those costumes are not comfortable, especially for the more armor you have on. What do you call it? I don't even know what it's called. But if you have one of these shields, and then there are things that are strapped. You have a knife, and there was nothing comfortable about it. And they can be constricting because of the way that the armor is on you, that we have to take them off. You can't move under them. They're very stiff, and so yeah. And there's a version of that armor before, I mean, just for camera, but then there's a version of it that allows you to do a bit more combat in it. So they were a lot. It was a lot of fun. So my point is, what the mood is that mood is not just the mirror universe, but it also comes out of the discomfort that we're in.
It's like, y'all, they not playing angry. They're really angry.
You gotta stand.
We're gonna do it again? We got it. Let's go. Let's move on.
Shaniqua.
Okay, so hi Wilson.
Hi.
And I'm Shaniqua, like she said, very similar to Saniqua. You could tell I said hey.
So it's Shaniqua?
Shaniqua, yes.
Work.
So in that final scene, and I don't know if you remember the expression on your face, so I'm going to try to explain. You had this huge smile on your face when Sonequa or Michael Burnham is taking the captain's chair. You all are lined up and everyone's smiling, but you had this huge grin on your face. And I'm just like, are they understanding that they're making history right now? Because there have been other Black captains on Star Trek, but this is the first time where we've had a Black female captain that is also a showrunner. And then we have all these brown faces, just like you said when you came into the Skype. All these brown faces lined up greeting her as she's taking the captain's chair. What was that feeling like? Like, did you guys have a moment where you all got chills or goosebumps? Like, could you explain, or do you remember what that was like?
I think there was a lot going on there for all of us, but for her, I'm sorry. You know, she's my friend, and I know all of the. I understand. I got to witness everything she had to endure in order to have that moment, and it's also true for that character. So I went with it, right? I felt it was appropriate because Burnham, Burnham went from being someone who was about to spend the rest of their lives in Brig, right? And, in jail for being a traitor of all things. And for her to have come from there to saving our lives, to committing and inspiring all of us to commit with her to leave everything we know and love behind to save the world. And that she finally got everything that she was due. Because Starfleet finally understood what we need to understand now, which is we must always listen to Black women.
Yes.
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 That.
Yes.
They have led us. They have told us the truth when it's uncomfortable. They have disciplined us. They have educated us. They loved us when we didn't deserve to be loved. They believed in us and our ideals and this Federation, in her case, even when it failed itself. And at every turn, Black women have reminded us of who we are supposed to be, not who we have fooled ourselves into believing we already are. So for me, that moment was about, yes, of course, about time, but this is overdue and well earned, and I'm glad it happened with this specific person because she can handle it, because she is she's exemplary as just as a human being, and I'm talking about her and her character, which at times I have a problem separating. Yeah, and I think Culber more than anyone has, well, maybe not more than anyone, but he understands in a profound way how hard this has been for her. And in the beginning of the season, and this is also the reason why I feel like that Culber was so happy, was because at the beginning of the season, he calls her on it, and in the most loving and vulnerable and Culber way. He challenges her to do the one thing. He calls it in the beginning. It's so crazy to me. He calls it at the beginning of the season. He goes, literally basically says there, the only thing that is keeping you from fulfilling your complete potential is that you're taking it all on too much, right? That there's that you can do it all, but you don't have to do it all, and that when you get there, when you get to that point, you're going to realize that you have it all within you. So there's all of that going on there. And it's basically how I look at her anytime she walks in a room.
Beautiful.
I'm emotional.
I thought that I know that Discovery writers can't tell the future, but I thought that this episode airing during this week in particular was just, like, we'll discuss more when we go into the finale, but it was just cathartic to me. It was like, wow, she's come full circle. All of this struggle, we've seen it. We've grown with Michael. And it's like seeing her in that captain's chair. It's like we all got, as marginalized communities, as Black women in particular, it's like we all sat in that captain's chair with her and said, let's fly.
And I don't know about you, but I thought of Kamala.
Right.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I thought of the vice president-elect.
Yes.
I'm so used to calling her by her name because she was my senator. But I thought of the vice president-elect when she sat in that chair.
Yep.
And that's a coincidence. There's no freaking way.
Yep.
I would have thought she would have been president. But anyway,
Listen, I have the Kamala Harris for the People shirt in my drawer right now.
Yeah.
I was really pushing for it.
But I thought Kamala. I thought of Stacey Abrams. I thought of Barbara Lee. I mean, Karen Bass. I thought of all of those women who are clearly captains.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But it's so wonderful though, because one of the things that we rarely get to see Black women in entertainment is happy and joyful, confident, right? The scene really resonated for me. It's because of just how joyful Michael looked. She had, not only was her makeup on point, but she had that, just the one thing we never really get to see for Black women. And it was the perfect way to end the third season. Perfect.
Can I tell you what the other thing that's really beautiful to me about it? I think this is okay to say. I mean, she's already, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Sonequa just had a child.
Mm-hmm.
She had a girl.
So when we see her sit in that chair, she is about 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so at the end of that season, we have literally left our past, right? And we have embraced our new future. And even though it's not Michael Burnham's pregnancy, that actress is literally holding the future within her.
Wow.
That's wow. That's
And that was not lost on me, because she's talking about, all right, let's go off and make a better future. And and her little pregnant round face, she's and she's like, she's holding the future inside her. That wasn't lost on me. I was a wreck here in this part.
I was a wreck watching it.
It was 7:30 in the morning for me, and I was in the room like yelling and crying. I was just like, oh, it's too early for this, but it's so amazing.
On Thursday mornings, my neighbors hate me. They really do. They do. They must.
All right. So I guess it's to me. A lot of Hugh's journey post mycelial network has been one of rediscovery of self. So in Hugh's scenes post return, how has that impacted how you present the character to the audience?
What was the word you used? Discovery of self?
Rediscovery of self.
I never looked at it that way. I look at it as a redefining of self, because Hugh has been doing two things up and even now. Through season 3, he's doing two things. He is remembering himself, and then deciding that's not enough, and deciding to redefine himself. And that's because of the fact that he's been given a second chance, right? And I think, and when I sit and meditate and do my work on who this man is, I think about and let my imagination go to a place like, what would someone do if they had been given a second lease on life? And the only answer that I'm sure you're even thinking it now is to do all of the things you wish you had done. To be all of the things that you wish you could be, to work as hard as you possibly can to reach your potential and to love as many people in your life as possible. And so for Hugh, it was he had to take a look at what is it about that life that I had that I want to hold on to and hold tight to. What is it that I want to let go of? Was this sense that he was only a servant. That he had but that he was not living up to his full potential because he only thought that he was there to serve others, including his partner, right? That he was willing to sacrifice, his own lifestyle and accept a lack of attention and intimacy and love from his partner without saying anything. When he comes back and he's given a second chance, that's not going to fly anymore. Walking back to their quarters for the first time after he's alive, and he calls him on it. You work too long. You've never cooked for me before. You've never shown attention, affection. It was all about you and this and your genius. Well, guess what? I'm a genius too.
Get about
That's
me.
it.
Right.
That's it.
And so season 3 is about, I'm going to show you just how genius I am. Now, I think about it. I think about you're genius and you do that and you're amazing and I'm going to love you through that. But you're going to see that I have other gifts that are just as genius and you're going to fall in love with me even more.
Oh,
and,
that's beautiful.
And then I'm going to grow my hair out.
That's
I
good.
love it.
I
Of
love it.
Did I
sure.
answer your question?
Oh yes, definitely. Redefining. I will make sure that I will put that note somewhere.
Yeah, redefine. And you know that's what he's explaining to Burnham in that scene in the first in episode 4. He's telling her, you know, you can become what you really need to be now here in this new future. We've gone through a trauma. This trauma can free you if you let it. If you let it awaken you to the fact that our time here is precious and we have one job, which is to be the best we can possibly be so that we can love as many people as we possibly can. That's it. That's the job. That's the meaning of life.
Yes.
Yes.
Still learning that, and you're right. Absolutely.
So, I had a question, but I'm going to change it based on some of your previous answers. Um,
I love that you're in the med bay. I love it.
I thought you'd feel at home. So, watching the season finale and watching this entire season, I feel like, your character and Book's character kind of redefined the concept of masculine hero in Star Trek. Because you had Book, who was your standard action hero. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Book is like, the new Han Solo, I think. And in the season finale, he's standing there staring proudly at Michael's achievements. And then, you've got Hugh, who now, is going out into like extremely dangerous situations and all this other stuff to care about people. So, talk to me a little bit about how you're helping to redefine masculine heroes for the 21st century.
That is such a great question.
You gotta give him some time. He gotta let that one marinate.
It's actually something I think about all the time. What does it mean to be a hero? What are we telling our kids it means to be brave? Isn't the most brave and courageous thing we can do is to be vulnerable? Is to let down all of the walls that we put up in order to separate ourselves so that people won't think that we're weak. But it's not weakness we're trying to hide. It's the vulnerability that it takes to show people who we really are. To say being strong, being brave, being a man means not being afraid of being afraid, of being scared, of being unsure. You know, I think about all of the courageous people in my life, and they're women. You know, and so for me, it's not about redefining courage and strength. It's about expanding the definition of it. And I hope and pray that by the time we get to 3188, the male parts of our species understand that they are strongest when they're vulnerable, because it's at that point that you are allowing people in, and they are allowing them to trust you, and to allow you to lead them. You know, I think about Barack Obama, right? Who hardly raised his voice, right? They had a presence that none of us could deny, right? That it was strength. It was a surety of who he was. You know, Brene, when I think about Culber, before I get in the costume and I walk up on set, I'm an acolyte of Brene Brown's, and she has this saying that I try to use in my life, that I try to live up to in my life, but that I feel Culber understands in a very profound way, which is strong back, soft front, wild heart, which means I'm going to stand up straight. I am strong, but I am not so strong that I don't feel and empathize and love. And I'm not afraid of taking risks, is a wild heart. I'm not afraid of making a fool of myself because I couldn't possibly, because I know I'm not a fool. I want to take risks because I want to expand my experience. So for me, the men, all of the men, it's, you point me and David and I out because I think those are obvious, but even, Anthony as well. All of the men on this show, I think, are allowing themselves to even redefine how they see strength and courage. And I mean, just look at Doug, right? Like that conversation with Sukal. The care and the time and the patience to lure him out, to get him to trust him. When I see what happened in our capital this week, these performative acts of masculinity are only masks for fear. They are, and it couldn't be more obvious. It is the fear of losing power, of losing privilege and access. And it is that was the act of a mob of people who are unwilling to be vulnerable enough to see themselves in us. Right? They can't. They can't. If they could see themselves in us, they could have never done anything like that.
Right.
And the fear is that in about 22 years, they know they're going to have to figure it out. And that's the scariest thing in the world for them right now. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. That's not strength. That's not courage. That's fear. And so what you see in Book and Culber is a lack of fear, lack of allowing fear to control you.
Yeah. I mean, as the guy and as like the guy on this show, it's always important to me to make sure that my voice does not at all ever supersede theirs, because that's collective wisdom. I'm here to hear it. You know what I mean? And I'm here to maybe help facilitate it.
I think, I think it's so important for men of color to see this too, to see these kinds of men. Oh my God, his name just fell out of my Sterling Brown.
Sterling K. Brown.
Sterling K.
I think he is perhaps the most transformational African American character on television in the last 20 years. Because of how he redefines strength and courage and vulnerability. I think he has freed so many, and because he's straight, maybe they will receive it more. And I hope they do. I think for a lot of men he has. I can't speak enough about him. I think that is brave work.
Absolutely.
and he's doing it in a world of today, not in the future somewhere, right? So
Exactly.
I think we need to see more of that.
I kind of love that you watch This Is Us.
Oh, I mean, listen,
I love the show.
I'm on a sci-fi show, but I have made my bread and butter on, 1 hour emotional dramas.
Oh, we know. That's
So
my therapy session.
they're my bread and butter. Ask me if I missed an episode of Grey's Anatomy ever. No, I didn't.
What we've seen in the last 3-4 years, and prior to that, has been a culmination of fear and individuals with power very much, tediously digging up those wounds of this country, which, look, it's something that we need to do. We need to have these conversations. We need to do the work. But preying on individuals who in their bubbles and who are unwilling to leave them, and they prey on that, and this is why we're here. We're the situation. We want Star Trek, and we, of course, Discovery, to continue its efforts and in showing diversity and actually working towards it, not just performative. We want the action, the advocacy that you bring out into the communities and throughout, not just for Black, but for Indigenous, for Southeast Asians, for the LGBTQ community. We want we want this world to be a beautiful place. Utopia is not, unfortunately, we're not going to get there. Yeah. But we want to have some understanding. And in order to do that, we need to communicate. We need to show empathy for one another. Okay. And that's maybe because I'm an empath. I'm like Booker. I suck everything in. I'm an Aquarius. So I kind of like suck everything in, and then I dodge everybody for a few months. But I really would like to have, I do.
I understand that, actually.
I need a break. Y'all need to leave me alone. Go away. But I would like to definitely see us hopefully move towards a better and brighter future. And Discovery really gives me hope that we could definitely do it. That's put our minds to it.
That's our job. I mean, look, it is a fictional world. Let's make no mistake about it. I'm not sitting here thinking that I'm, insane and actually live in 3188. But the power of what it is what it allows people to dream about, right? What it allows people's imaginations to wander into. We can't even begin to discuss realizing a world that we can't imagine. Mm-hmm. Right? So the gift of Star Trek is an unleashing of the imagination. It is what it was for many people who watched this show this week, which was a reminder of our ideals, of what it is we're fighting for, of what it is we defend that capital for, or should be defending that capital for. The idea that we are all equal, no matter our race, our gender, our sexual orientation, our ability, whatever, that the world we're actually trying to create is a world in which we celebrate the fact that we're all different. There's a reason why we're all different, because we all bring our individual gifts, and we need them all. We need all of us to be able to realize our potential and use our gifts to create this world that we were gifted. And the problem with our present circumstances is that we are living in a system that doesn't allow 90% of humanity to understand that they are perfect exactly as they are, that they have gifts to offer, that there are genius, somewhere in Africa, somewhere in Russia, somewhere in the world where there is poverty and starving and famine is perhaps the genius who can find a cure for cancer, solve the ills of the world, but we're too busy keeping people down because of the way that they look, or because we expect, because of what they look like, that they have to be a part of a cast that doesn't get to realize their potential. We all are screwed by that. And the inverse of that is that there is some multi-millionaire megalomaniac fool who's never even read the Constitution, but because of his status and lack of melanin, is allowed to climb to the highest seat in our land.
Mm-hmm.
And that only happens if you believe that only people who weren't lucky enough to have the beautiful birthmark that we have all over our bodies, that's the only reason why they get where they are. Because nobody, no Black, Puerto Rican, female even, could have the history, the lack of education, and the lack of humanity that person has and be allowed to get where he got. There's only one reason for that. And so Star Trek is about that. It's not gonna work anymore. We have to be allowed, all of us, to become all that we're supposed to be, because the only way that this place is going to survive to 3188 is if we all bring our gifts, our God-given gifts, to it. And I'm tired.
I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen.
Adding that on that, he said what he said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that we're seeing a lot of what it is you talked about. I think it's in its death throes. It's this last big gasp of we're gonna try and keep this going, but it's like you're just delaying the inevitable just a little bit longer.
Oh, they're gonna try and delay it as long as they possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh no,
No, thank you.
Hearing your answers it's just a boon, I think, of wisdom. And just, I think you put into words a lot of the things we're trying to do on this podcast, especially when we're talking about Blackness and Blackness in the future and in the present. And so, truly, your answers are amazing.
Thank you for everything. we want to be respectful of your time. I do want to close out with a quote that you said at the end of near the end of the episode when you were talking to Gray, and you said, "We will find a way for you to be seen." And so, Wilson, I hope that your time today with us, that you saw us, because we definitely saw you. And we can't thank you enough for all of the gems that you dropped, and being just your candor. You're so nice, and you're so handsome.
I wasn't gonna answer.
I'll take it.
I mean,
So thank you for stopping by.
Just know that we are making this for you. This is your Star Trek. And I'm not saying it's just for you, but I'm saying it's for you. It's for you to be seen. It's for you to understand that we see you, that you are heroes, that you're capable of greatness, that when the world needs saving, as usual, we will be turning to you.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I know I'm loving every minute of it. So huge thank you, Wilson. Thank you so much for lending us your time.
I'm happy to have been here.
Awesome.
Hey, have a great day.
Have a great live long
Be
and
well.
prosper.
Bye.
Thank you.
Grace was great.
Bye.
Bye, honey.